Welcome to Gangs All Here, our New York Jets podcast from the New York Post. Jake Brown here, opening up the show this time. No singular open because we have to open with Brian Costello, who has now won over Jets Twitter. The Jets fans, Kaz, you're winning more than the Jets are as the Jets lose their fifth straight. They ended last year losing 6 in a row. Now that's 5 in a row. They're 4-8. You could kiss any slim playoff hopes out the window, Kaz, and you could kiss Aaron Rodgers' chances of coming back this season goodbye. Would you say the same, or would you say they're going to put it back in consideration if they beat Houston next week?
No, I think it's over, Jake. I mean, yeah, I guess mathematically there's probably some kind of chance. I haven't seen the ESPN playoff percentage or whatever, but it was down to less than 1% after last week. So can't imagine it's too good now. Yeah, and I think this was looking at it realistically, they had to win this game in order to keep their hopes alive, and that went out the window. And now, Jake, you're looking at it and going, who can they beat? Right? I mean, the Commanders, maybe, I guess. Patriots in that last game of the year is going to be neither team can score a touchdown. That might be a 0-0 tie, the way things are going for both teams. So, yeah, I think it's fair to move along to 2024.
And we finally saw Trevor Siemian today, who actually had moments in his brief stint. And when I say moments, it's like a completed pass for more than 10 yards. That is a
Yeah.
Jets moment this season. I think it's a lock that he's going to start against the Texans next week. I don't think you can go back to Boyle at this point. And then if Siemian fails, we go back to Zach Wilson. And then we film The Greatest Showman too. And we have circus acts, elephants open out on the field. We have the Ringley Barnum Bailey Circus at MetLife Stadium because it's hit that point with this revolving door of inept backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. You can't go back to Boyle, Jake. I think the question is Zach or Siemian right now. And, it kind of became a punchline where Saleh kept saying Zach gives us the best chance to win. I think you've seen that at this point, right? I think he does. I mean, Siemian fumbled 3 times, Jake. It's pretty tough. I know the bar is low, and he completed that pass and to Gibson on the sideline, a few other first downs, but I think if you're really sitting back and looking at it, Zach Wilson is the best quarterback of these 3 quarterbacks. I don't know if he's shot mentally at this point, and you can't go back to him then. But I mean, there's no good options. There's nothing. Nothing is good. Nothing's working.
You kind of said when we had Shine on that him and Saleh are married in terms of like, if one's staying, the other's staying, and one's not going to go. The other, like Joe Douglas has got to get a little bit more heat here, guys. This is 3 years of this with bad quarterbacks. Zach pick obviously was wrong. He kept him. He tried to get scrub backups, guys who have had no success in the league. Simeon's had a little bit of success, but it's been a while. They saw what Simeon was in the past year, and he couldn't do anything, and then he gets hurt. Like, I don't think Joe Douglas is getting enough heat for fumbling this entire quarterback situation. It really feels like he got Rodgers, then kicked his legs back and said, we're going to be fine, and didn't address it. And we're seeing, I mean, look at the Browns today. Joe Flacco didn't know his teammates' names and scored a few touchdowns. Like, they were in that game until the final few minutes against a playoff caliber Rams team. So, like I said, Dobbs, I know Dobbs was brought back to earth last week, but he still won 3 games for the Vikings. You're seeing backups step in and at least have, moved the ball down the field. Gardner Minshew, what he did is absolutely remarkable. What the Colts doing with him is just remarkable. So it's something that needs to get addressed, but this has been 3 years of this garbage.
Yeah, like he blew the Zach pit. But I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers was the plan this year, Jake. So you have to say, like, okay, he did go out and make a monster trade in the offseason to get the quarterback. I think there's this perception of like, oh, they just rolled it back with Zach Wilson this year. Like they didn't. They gave up on Zach Wilson after last year. If you cut Zach Wilson, I'll repeat this again. If you cut Zach Wilson in the offseason, his dead money charge was $20.7 million. That really handcuffs a team. That's a pretty big chunk. So, and then if you're like, oh, well, we could have brought him back as, the third string quarterback, he's a $9 million salary cap charge if he's on the roster. And I just don't know, like, you're not attracting a great backup to the Jets if the plan is Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson's also still here, right? Like, so you could argue, bring Mike White back. Why would Mike White want to come back to the Jets when Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson are there? Or he can go to Miami where Tua had concussion issues. He thinks he's probably going to get on the field there and be a starter. Why would Gardner Minshew come to the Jets instead of the Colts, where he knew they were going to draft a quarterback? He'd probably be able to hold the job down until that rookie came in, or if the rookie struggles, he'll take the job over. Like, these backup quarterbacks who have options, they weren't picking the Jets. Aaron Rodgers was here. And then even when he went down, he immediately said, I'm coming back this year. So, like, the idea that, like, a lot of people were going to want to come here, like the Kirk Cousins thing, it never made sense to me, because why would anyone want to be here when Rodgers was saying they want to come back? Now, when you get to
Trevor
the Joe Flacco,
Simeon, like, oh, like,
you go to Joe
you do
Flacco
better
level,
than that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you probably should have done better than that. But I also look at it, Jake, 90% of these backup quarterbacks lose. I know they look better than what Trevor Simeon looked. I get it. But they're like Joe Flacco. I didn't see the game today. I saw his stats tweeted out. But at the end of the day, the Browns lost, right? Like, most of these teams lose. Like Josh Dobbs, it's like, oh my God, he's a great story. His teams have won 2 games all season. The Cardinals and Vikings won 2 games combined with him at quarterback. And everyone's like, oh my God, he's the answer. Like, it's when you lose your quarterback in this league early in the season for the entire season, it's over. It's over no matter what you do. And I get it. They look terrible. They're not functional on offense. They need to be better. But I think people are pie in the sky with this, like, oh, they should have had a backup quarterback. If Aaron Rodgers had been, I think I've repeated myself on this. If Rodgers had just sprained his ankle and missed 3 games, you could have survived with Zach Wilson, right? Zach Wilson won 4 games, essentially. He wasn't the starter in the first game, but I'm going to give that to him because he played the whole game. He won 4 games. You could have won a few games with him if Rodgers was down for 3 or 4 weeks. Losing him for 17 weeks, you were finished. You were finished. And so, yeah, I mean, Joe Douglas deserves to get heat. He hasn't won. It's been a long time. But I also think people need to keep in perspective. His quarterback plan was Aaron Rodgers. And that was, people were applauding him from February till August on that plan. And then he, 4 plays in the season, it went down the drain.
Yeah. And listen, I just wish they had a better backup plan, because you came in with a guy off a bum thumb, 39 years old. And you even said it. I mean, you picked the Jets to win 8 games, which, I mean, I cannot believe your pick is now.
And I'm not going to get it.
How is that? Like, I can't even wrap my head.
I will be closest to the pin though, Jake, because I don't think anyone was below me.
Like, how are you're going to be 3 or 4 wins off in 2 positive? Like, how? And I'm also thinking, watching on my couch, these lunatics at this game.
At the game. God bless.
Money.
God bless these people, Jake.
Points.
God bless them.
Oh my God! I saw
I
saw your
Jets
guy
fans.
Petey Italy yesterday at the Queens baseball convention. We were talking. I think he was there. I'm like, why are you going to the game? And another nasty weather Sunday, and
there were swaps. It definitely wasn't full, Jake. And I'll say, like, it was all gas, no brakes into the parking lot today. You didn't have to slow down going into the parking lot. There was not that many people there. But yeah, I give them all the credit in the world. I mean, they were outside tailgating. It was miserable today. And then the football was miserable. Just, and like, I can't remember, Jake, a more nondescript opponent than the Falcons. Like, I said this the other day in the media room, like, name 5 players on the Falcons defense, and like, no one could. And these are people who cover the NFL for a living. Like, they were like a nameless, faceless team without, like, an offense. They had a few guys or stars. Defense, though, was like nothing. So I can't remember a more nondescript opponent. And in December, in the rain, God bless the Jets fans who were out there today.
And guys, that team, that nameless, faceless team, is in first place and potentially playoff bound, while the Jets are bound for the top 5. The Jets did get help by, who was the team that the Cardinals, them winning today. They pick up the 3rd win. So now we're starting to watch Tankathon as we approach Hanukkah, as Thanksgiving is wrapped up. The Jets season is over again, and they got to do something right by the fans. I mentioned about them having to pay season tickets early, like no medium Pepsis, no large Pepsis final game. Give the fans every remainder of the season
Oh,
free food, free liquor, free alcohol, free something the entire game. None of these free Pepsi, a 10% off, like your sausage roll. Give them free everything. At least one of these final
well, how
games.
about? I mean, that last home game, Jake, is Christmas Eve against the Commanders. Like,
Oh
that's talk
god.
about another game. Is anyone going to go to that game?
See Zach Wilson. He'll be back. The return of Zach on Christmas Eve. The only thing Jets fans are getting for is coal for Christmas, and it seems to be a annual tradition, an annual present from Woody Johnson and company. And Joe Douglas got to, if he's still here, it's got to get this. Like, now that you learn your lesson, go get a legitimate backup quarterback in case Rodgers gets hurt or doesn't
I
come
think they
back
will.
right
Like
from the
it's
injury.
much easier to cut Zach after this year, right? You have to remember he's the number 2 pick in the draft, so
Mhm.
cutting him is not an easy proposition. Like there's a lot of guaranteed money there. So, but now entering year 4, they can cut him and eat the money a little bit easier. I think they will. I think they'll add a veteran quarterback, to back up Rodgers. So I think you'll get your wish this
I
year.
mean, well, you
But
tweeted
I will
something.
say, like, I don't think again if Rodgers goes down the first game of the year, they're screwed. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what backup quarterback is winning you a lot of games.
Yeah, and I mean, what can the defense even say or do at this point? You sense the frustration. You had tweeted in recent weeks, the post-game locker room has an anger and frustration. Today, I heard resignation. The players know that QB play is the issue, and there's no solution currently healthy and on the roster. Explain what you mean by that and what the feel was in the locker room.
Yeah, like so you guys have all seen Brees Hall or Garrett Wilson or whoever in the last few weeks kind of look like either angry or depressed or like today it was just kind of like, well, what do you guys want us to say? Like it's they know like they the defense, I think Atlanta had less than 200 yards, Jake, right? Where they have 195 yards maybe, and they scored 13 points, and the defense gets a safety and they get a stop with 5 minutes left in the game to give them the ball back. They're doing everything that they can, and this team can't get in the freaking end zone. So the players know. I mean, and got like this was not on Nate Hackett. Like I've been hard on Hackett. This was not on him. If you go watch the tape, Garrett Wilson's running wide open all over the place, and Tim Boyle can't freaking get the ball to him. So, and he did a flea flicker, Jake. He had Dwayne Brown as an extra offensive lineman. They gave Dalvin Cook the ball more. Like they tried stuff today. I've been yelling at them, like just try something. They tried today, and it's the quarterback. It's just the quarterback play sucks, and they all know it. And I just feel like they're all kind of like, what are we supposed to do at this point? I think they're just resigned to the fact that the season's over, and it's gone down the tubes because of quarterback play, just like last year.
Yeah, it's a demoralizing feeling, and these guys they got that loser mentality right now because they're just not a winning football team, and back-to-back years with some of these young guys having to watch this over and over, and no Rodgers to save them this year. It's not going to happen as the Jets will need. I don't even know Christmas miracle. That's too cliche. I don't know. I mean, they're mathematically alive, but they would need essentially every other team to lose, and they would have to win out, and they can't even
I mean,
score a touchdown. Let alone
what game do you think they're gonna win, Jay?
I mean, maybe the Commanders game. Commanders look pretty lousy, but maybe the Patriots game. The Patriots again shut out today, so their offense would be
Yeah.
pretty inept. That would maybe be a silver lining, but it would be very much like, oh look, we won a meaningless game, but we moved 5 spots back in the draft. So I
Right.
almost
Because
don't
now you're
want to win
talking
that
about,
game.
so if you give them those 2 wins, it's 6-11, right?
Mhm.
So, and that's like purgatory because now you're not getting the great draft pick. You're not in the playoffs. It's tough, but and then Jake, you look at, I mean, if they lose out, holy cow, like that.
Someone's got to get fired. If they're 4-13, you can't tell me you're running it back.
I know, but it's tricky, right? Because Mr. Rogers is not going to want new people around him. Like this is what he signed up for. So they desperately need to win a game to at least quiet that noise. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. The Commanders look bad, but the Commanders defense has to be looking at the Jets going, "Hey, that's the game we can stop somebody." and the Patriots game might be a 0-0 tie with the way the two teams are going. But it's yeah, I have consistently thought Salah and Douglas are safe, but 10 in a row is 10 in a row. And I agree with you. There's
Yeah,
going to
with
be
this
good.
defense losing 10 in a row is just it's pure insanity. And it's not like
Yeah.
they're facing
And they're
incredible
still
teams.
5 games away from that. So,
Yeah.
can they win a game? This team did beat the Eagles somehow in October. So can they do it again?
All right, well, this game was garbage. I don't want to address it too much. I'm pissed at Joe Douglas. I know he got Aaron Rodgers, but I did not like Tim Boyle, Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian. I really, even if they got like a Colt McCoy, someone who can move. And you saw Boyle try to move today. Good God, he is. He really cannot move outside the pocket. It was an ugly watch. Another brutal game. But the highlight of the weekend, if you're living under a rock on Jets Twitter, I'll recap you, or you might not saw the tweets because a few of them were deleted, or at least the Jamal ones were deleted. Connor Hughes, our buddy at SNY, quote tweeted, just a highlight of a touchdown that was against Jamal Adams with yikes. Jamal Adams, subtweet gets his reply, quote tweets that with yikes, with a picture of Connor and more so Connor's, I believe, his wife, right?
His wife, yes,
His
correct.
wife, which is just wild. Yikes with whatever that emoji is. Hashtag Prez. That pisses me off when he says hashtag Prez. Like, we know who you are. We know who your Twitter is. Like, stop hashtagging your own name. That's absolutely ridiculous. Completely uncalled for and absolutely ludicrous. And obviously, everyone defended Connor, including you, with the tweet. And this was a good one. I've covered a lot of players through the years, never met any who was more of a phony than Jamal Adams. I always thought he was a bad guy. Today, he proved he's even worse than I thought. So you were dominant. Like, there were gifs of you, like in the WWE ring, like with Jamal Adams' face. Like, there was some good content that came out of that. And then Prez fires back. Again, you didn't mention him. So he is searching his name or he's having
Well,
someone send.
he blocked me a long time ago,
Oh.
so I didn't think mentioning him would matter, right? Like so yeah, he blocked me when he was still here. I think
Did you block it? I guess you didn't block him because he was
I
able to
never
quote
blocked
tweet
him.
you.
No, I never
Okay.
blocked him.
All right. So, and he comes back with, and here comes Mr. Potato Head, Mr. Hughes' right hand man. Truth be told, I do not care. I do not like you. Never liked you. You're terrible at your job. You do not know me outside the game of football. So keep that ish pushing. Hashtag Prez. You go with Connor's right hand man, question mark. That one does sting. And then the ultimate in your face move. You made your profile picture Mr. Potato Head. That was tremendous. Can you just lay out this whole
Yeah.
story and everything? Just give the cause side because I think everyone wants to hear your angle on this.
I changed it back tonight to my old
Oh,
avatar.
come on.
I did it for 24 hours, Jake. Mr. It's a little hard to tweet as Mr. Potato Head when you're like ripping the Jets or something, and people are looking at Mr. Potato Head. So, look, I mean, what I said is what I said. It's what I believe. And Jamal's right. I don't know him beyond football, but I know a lot of people who knew him with the Jets, from teammates to coaches to front office. He was not well liked when he was with the Jets. Um, there's a lot of stories I could tell, but I'm not really going to do it. About Jamal, just some of the stuff I've heard. We did not get along great. I didn't, there was no like blowups or anything. Jamal expressed to me a few times that he didn't like me and that he thought I was too negative about him and stuff. He complained about some of the coverage and things, but nothing crazy. But I just thought what he did to Connor was unconscionable, right? Like we're allowed to criticize players, and people are allowed to criticize us. If you think, Jets Twitter gets mad at me when I pick against the Jets, which I picked them to win today and they lose, that's fair. Like, you can tell me I'm an idiot. Like, you can just disagree with my takes. You can, tell me I'm a bad reporter or whatever you want to do. But we never, ever, ever bring family into it. Like, I would never, ever talk about a player's wife or like that's, to me, is like insane. It's not even like, I can't even wrap my brain around that. And vice versa, talking about a reporter's wife, and Connor's wife is a very attractive woman. And so it didn't even make sense by Jamal what he was doing there. So I thought it was awful. So I was just kind of trying to stick up for Connor there a little bit and his wife. And Jamal. He, call me Mr. Potato Head. It's fine. It's like, we're in second grade. Call me names. It's okay. And yes, but the Connor's right hand man one was the one that really hurt me, Jake. That was I like, Connor is much younger than me. I remember when Connor was a college student coming around. So I was in the press box today. I told Connor I would get his food for him. I was helping him with stats. I was trying to do anything I could to be Connor's right hand man today. So I just laugh at it, Jake. Like, and what Jabal's tweet toward me is totally in bounds. It's fine. You can tell me I'm a terrible reporter. I don't care, and call me names. What he did to Connor, well, that was inexcusable.
Yeah, well, a couple things. One, yeah, I mean, even if she was not attractive, it's still insane to find a Twitter of him and his picture of him and his
Yes,
wife
it's insane.
and quote tweet it tweet that didn't even mention you. All he said was "yikes" on a highlight where you got beat.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that was just insane. And yeah, she is attractive, and like that doesn't even matter. But like that's absolutely uncalled for. Like you said, he's very much childish. I'm sure. I wish you could tell one of these stories. I know you're not
Well,
going
like
to.
something too, like
But
somebody said to me, like, "Well, why didn't you say this when he was a Jet?" So like, it's an interesting question. And I did after the trade deadline in 2019. I started to go in on Jamal a little bit because I thought that was like that revealed his character. If you remember that, like he really wanted to be traded to the Cowboys, and he
Mhm,
really showed it. And he was a captain of the team, Jake. And
mhm.
I can remember a player calling me over and saying, because he did a session in the locker room. Remember where he said he wasn't going to speak to Joe Douglas or Adam Gase anymore, and like he was really mad. He acted like he was mad that they tried to trade him, but he was really mad that they didn't trade him. He desperately wanted to go to the Cowboys, and he kind of hinted at that, or I can't remember exactly the quote, but he said something that was pretty bad. And one of the players was like, "Did he really say that?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "He's a captain of this team." So I could tell like the room had turned on him. That one, and then and I'm not going to tell like some of the behind the scenes stuff, but I do remember at the end of 2018, I want to say, yeah, 2018. It was the last game of 2018 in the Patriots locker room, and he kept saying that they needed dogs. You remember that? Like we
Yeah, I
need
do remember that.
dogs,
Yep.
and I just thought it was like really insulting to the other men that were in the locker room at that point because he was implying that they weren't good enough. And like right what the Jets are going through right now, someone could come out and say, like, hey, our quarterback play sucks, guys. Like, that's why we're losing. No one's going to do that because that's disrespectful to Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Trevor Simeon. Like, they're their teammates. They got to stick up for them. And Jamal was like, oh, we need better players, basically. And I was like, man, he's saying that. And all these guys are right here. Like, how do they feel about that? So, but like, these players are very young, Jake, when they get drafted. And I'm always conscious of that. And I always chalk up some stuff to immaturity. And so I won't go in on players when they're young on stuff because I feel like they sort of deserve time to mature and figure things out, and a lot of them do. And but Jamal's now 28 years old, I think, and he's still acting like this, which just shows me I was wrong. It wasn't maturity. This is just who he is, and um, he really shouldn't be worried about me or Connor. Like, just like I can't believe like if I was advising him, I'd be like, Jamal, you really give a crap what these Jets beat reporters think about you? Like, move on, man. Like you're an NFL freaking player. Like you can't be worried about these guys. You got to have thicker skin than that. And I think Jamal's a very good player. I haven't watched him a lot with Seattle, so I don't know how he is now. But when he's with the Jets, I always thought he was a very good player. I never demean him. I think I'd probably lobby for him to get paid that year, Jake. But um, clearly, Joe Douglas, that's one where he made a good choice, and that was a great trade with the Seattle when he shipped Adams there for 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, the immaturity is off the charts, and you got to wonder how he was a captain. Like, who voted him a captain that year?
No comment.
There's a story behind that one too. Um,
There's a big story behind that one.
you're gonna write a book about Jamal.
No, I
It's
will
gonna be
not.
called Mr. Potato Head. It's
That
gonna
will
be a
not.
book
That,
about
that,
Jamal.
that won't happen.
Yeah, I mean, you got to wonder. You got to wonder if he has like an agent or publicist, or like the Seahawks publicist is in his ear saying, "Hey, don't be tweeting this stuff. Worry about football." Clearly not, because
Yeah.
this has happened
Well,
several times. I feel like.
yeah. I mean, he deleted. I don't know. He deleted the Connor tweet, I believe, right?
I don't think
So
he deleted Potato Head one.
No, but I think someone got in his ear. I mean, and again, the potato head one, whatever, that's fine. You can do that. The Connor tweet though was inappropriate. I think someone told him to delete that. So
Yeah, and I think he retweeted someone said, "I don't know why media members think they can constantly scrutinize and personally demean, belittle, and antagonize players with no repercussions. It's all business and business until not to understand players are real people too." I mean, come on. He said, "Yikes on him giving up a ton." Like
right, that's the thing.
scrutinize
Like, yeah,
players. You got
yeah.
beat. Accept it. Like, good God. Like
Yeah,
you're
it's
allowed
weird that
to.
it's weird that that one set him off. I don't know why that set him off. Yikes, but um, yeah, very weird.
Listen, we talk about cover sport. This is what we do. Some players have to also respect, like, you know, this is our living. For me, I never thought of doing anything outside of sports. Like, this is what I love. So for them to want to criticize media and stuff, hey, we have a job too. Like, and there's people who listen, there's people who watch, there's people that pay for subscriptions to sites. There's people out there who want to hear, see, and read things that we do. So you have to understand you're going to get scrutinized and you get millions and millions
Yeah,
of dollars and you have to, deal with it. That's just part of
and
being an athlete, honestly.
Jr. Our jobs are different, right? But like, I want to make one thing clear about like how I approach my job is I'm in that locker room every day that I can be, right? And um, if I go critical of someone, like I just thinking of like I went after Nate Hackett pretty good a few weeks ago. I made sure that I was there when Nate Hackett talked, and just in case he wanted to talk to me, and I've had so many conversations through the years with players who are upset about something that was written or said, and I'm always happy. Like that's part of being accountable. Like you don't hide. So, and Jamal's one of them. Jamal and I had conversations about what was said, and Brandon Marshall's a guy who we've had on the show. Brandon and I butted heads pretty bad when he first got to the Jets. He just didn't like some of the stuff I wrote. But Brandon and I would talk through it, and he would sort of, I think, understand where I was coming from, and I understood where he was coming from, and you figure it out. And they don't have to like us. That's fine. But it's not like, and I think most beat writers that cover the Jets, I would say, are accountable and are there every day and not hiding if they take a shot at somebody.
Have there been any instances this season? I feel like there probably hasn't, but anything from Hackett or anyone?
No. I mean, I think from people I've talked to, Hackett doesn't pay attention to much of it, and I mean, Hackett's the son of a football coach, and his dad got it bad here and was a head coach in college, so I'm sure he grew up around it and kind of knows it comes with the territory.
Yeah, you wonder, this last month if it keeps getting ugly and uglier, if these guys' frustration, something that boils. I know you said a few weeks ago you're waiting for that to happen in the locker room, to see if that happens because this losing streak's getting bad and you lost
That
6 in a row at the end of last year, you've lost 5. What if it turns into 9, 10 games that could get ugly come late December, early January, right, Cuz?
Yeah, I give the defense all the credit, Jake. I haven't seen it, and they've said all the right things and they've been professional. And obviously, they didn't have a lot. Like today, they played really well against Atlanta. The last two games, Miami, Buffalo, they weren't quite as strong as they had been, but they played their butts off against the Falcons, and you get the safety to start things off. And like I said, I thought the stop with like 5.5 minutes left, where Jermaine got the stop and get them the ball back and nothing. They've got to just be so frustrated. So yeah, I don't know. I do think they understand like all of the frustration though. I'm not sure how much anyone's blaming the coaches at this point, right? I think they know it's really about one position. And CJ Mosley kind of came close to saying something today and he stopped himself basically, or he kind of middled it, but he said something about the quarterback play and then he kind of went in a different direction. But I don't know how they're doing it.
It's time to see some young guys. Like we talked about Brees Hall. I don't know. You're not going to shut him down, but maybe having him take a little bit of backseat. 13 rushes, 16 yards
Yeah.
today. I mean,
Dalvin got more run today.
9 carries, 35. Still no Izzy. No sight of Izzy, who was
So
ill, I guess, today. But
Izzy was sick this week, Jake, and I actually saw him leave the practice field Friday. I
Hmm.
thought Izzy might be inactive this week because I saw him walk off pretty early in practice Friday. Like we're out there for the first 30 minutes, and he walked off while we were there, and he went inside. So that tells me he was probably pretty sick. I don't know if he had a stomach thing or what, but like that to me, maybe that was why. But yeah, I'll kind of chalk that up this week to maybe that he didn't practice all week, basically.
Oh, well, we got 5 more games of this.
5 more games.
Uh, Another game without a touchdown. It'll be the Texans without Tank Dell, who got hurt.
Stroud came back,
He'll be
right?
out.
I saw
Yeah,
Stroud got
Stroud
hurt
is
but came
fine,
back.
but Dell is, I believe, done
Bell's
for the
out.
season now, which is a brutal blow for them. They've been absolutely electric on offense to watch. I mean, that team is so fun to watch, and we'll see if the Jets defense can hold them. But even if they do, I don't know if Trevor Siemian or whoever's quarterback is going to score a damn touchdown. I mean, this is getting to historic levels of ineptitude, and we will preview that game and I guess talk about other things, give a Hanukkah presents or something on Thursday's show, and we'll close this episode of Gangs All here next. Oh man, that says adios to episode 168 of Gangs All Here, a Jets podcast from the New York Post. Thanks to Andrew Hartz and the intern Mason Radicchio for helping produce this show. The New York Jets are just terrible for your mental health. And, if the Jets lose out, you have to fire Joe Douglas. You have to fire Robert Saleh. Like, enough is enough. This is embarrassing, and there has to be accountability held. And like I said, the Jets have to do something for their fans. This is a disgrace. If you expect fans to keep showing up, obviously today wasn't full, and it won't be full, Christmas Eve. It won't be full against the Texans next week. But you have to do something for the fan base, whether it's give out tickets, whether it's, make it a game of all free food. Give back to these fans who have suffered their entire lives watching this miserable franchise. You make them go out to East Rutherford. There's nothing else to do there. You're paying ridiculous amounts for parking, tickets, food, drinks. It is a terrible experience. And then you want to ask the fans to pay a year ahead or 10 months ahead, whatever it is, for their season tickets for next year. Oh, but then you put a social media video out of Aaron Rodgers talking to fans. Listen, that's great. I thought that was awesome. But you got to do better than that. I'm sorry. You can't put out a social video. One Jet Tribe's been fantastic. Social media team is great. But you have to do better to these fans who pay the PSLs, pay the season tickets, because this isn't right. This is not the National Football League that we're watching. This is pee-wee football on the offensive side. And Joe Douglas should be ashamed of himself for not addressing the backup quarterback position. Obviously, it was Rodgers. But for Tim Boyle, Zach Wilson, and Trevor Siemian to be your 3 backup plans, and for us to be into 3 years with Zach Wilson and a bunch of bums surrounding him, is 3 years of wasted football. And you could tell me they were in it last year. They were, but then they lost 6 straight games. And a lot of it because of the quarterback. It's an embarrassment. And I hope Joe Douglas has a long apology letter written when the season's over. And, if they lose out, guys got to be accountable and be fired. So, now we'll see. Do they play for their coach? I can't even say that. Their quarterback stuck. They won't win games. But let's see what the effort level is the rest of the season by these guys and see if they play for the coach. And we'll see if heads roll and there's pink slips given out when the season's over. But this is infuriating to the fan base to see such a terrible, lifeless offense continue to not do a simple thing like score a single touchdown. It should not be this difficult. Well, great stuff there from Kaz on the Connor Hughes story. I mean, he absolutely put him in a body bag, Jamal Adams. Like Mr. Potato had profile picture. I wish he kept that up for a week. I'm a little mad he changed it back. But Kaz winning over the Jets fans. So good stuff. Thanks to everybody who listens to the show. Watches us on that New York Post Sports YouTube page. Give us a thumbs up. Comment below. Do you think guys should be fired? Or do you think this was just, Rodgers went down, they had bad luck? I partially think that. And someone tweeted me, fuck these bozos. This is, you said Boyle would help the Jets win. I didn't say that. I said you had to make a change to see what happens. And clearly none of these guys didn't work. So I never thought Tim Boyle was leading the Jets in the playoffs. You'd have to call me crazy for that. So none of these quarterbacks were able to do that. Josh Dobbs might have, a better name might have, but none of these guys on the roster were able to do that. So, you want to call me out and say, hey, this is what you wanted, fine. But Zach Wilson had to be benched. It was the right move to bench him. Unfortunately, the other guys just aren't good. Well, let's say goodnight. That's enough. I'm losing my damn mind. Thanks everybody for listening to Gangs All Here. For Brian Costello, Jake Brown, we'll be back on Thursday to preview Jets Texans. We'll hopefully get a special guest on the show. Thanks for listening to Gangs All Here. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, and thanks to all the Mets fans who are Jets fans who came out to see me and Elsa Figueroa at Amazing But True at the Queens Baseball Convention. You can check out that episode wherever you get podcasts as well. We'll talk to you all Thursday. Thanks for listening.